Hello, friends. This is Novorishskoye Shosсе, one of the most expensive and prestigious stretches of real estate near Moscow. And this is a town called Timoshkino Park. Not the worst place to live, even by the standards of the Russian elite. If you fly a drone over it, you'll see beautiful views of large and well-groomed plots of land. The cost of this particular plot is between $2 to $3 million. Who do you think it belongs to? A businessman? An artist? An athlete? Not at all. The Dossier Center discovered that this house belongs to a general in the FSB, Sergei Alpatov, and his wife, Yekaterina. However, if you check any official public map, all you'll see is an empty void where the general's luxurious family home should be. If you look at a satellite image, you'll see a massive compound in the supposedly vacant lot, made up of not one, but 3 mansions. The official government registry indicates that the site is owned by a couple, Sergei Sergeyevich and Yekaterina Yurievna. Same exact name, just different surnames. Antonov instead of Alpatov. But someone made a mistake filing out a line in the registry. The majority of the property is, in fact, owned by the wife of the FSB General. The General himself is never mentioned by name. Not that shocking. FSB employees of his stature don't usually appear in public databases. But it's safe to assume that the name Sergei Sergeyevich Antonov was used as an alias. By no coincidence at all, the adjacent plot with 2 smaller houses belongs to Alpatov's family. You'd think Sergei Alpatov would be living a modest life, judging by his official salary. His old job was to head the counterintelligence and anti-corruption department. Now, he's the acting head of the Economic Security Service of the FSB. Alpatov is a man so removed from public view that we couldn't even find his photo. I doubt you could find a single Russian who's heard his name. That's the kind of person who wields real power in the FSB in Russia, a faceless name. Another ghost like Alpatov is FSB General Smirnov, who was fired and replaced by General Korolyov. These last 2 generals are among the 10 most influential figures in the country. Again, no one's ever heard of them. Why do ordinary FSB generals have more power than a deputy prime minister or governor? And why is this so harmful for Russia? We'll talk about this today. Army General Sergei Smirnov served as the first deputy head of the FSB from 2003 to 2020. He oversaw the Economic Security Service, the Service for the Protection of the Constitutional System and Fight Against Terrorism, and the Department of Military Counterintelligence. He was the de facto number 2 at the FSB. Just so you understand, the Service for the Protection of the Constitutional Order and the Fight Against Terrorism is the most influential service in the FSB. This is Russia's secret police. It's responsible for protecting Putin's legitimacy and for the fight against dissent and opposition. This service was responsible for Alexey Navalny's poisoning and the silencing of several journalists trying to expose corruption. The Economic Security Service within the FSB is basically Russia's shadow government. It oversees the key areas of industry, the credit and financial system, transportation, and communications. In other words, it rules almost the entire economy. It has at its disposal unlimited legal power and obedient prosecutors, judges, and governors. First Deputy Director Smirnov had direct access to Putin, a luxury reserved for only the most important figures in Russia. So what happened to General Smirnov? The official reason for his resignation was his age. On October 12th, Smirnov turned 70, and on October 22nd, Vladimir Putin signed his resignation decree. This is unlikely to be the real reason. After all, Putin is already 68 and showing no signs of going into quiet retirement. According to sources from inside the FSB, the exposed corruption of Colonel Cherkalin delivered a serious blow to Smirnov's position of power. Of course, not the corruption itself, nothing new here, but the fact that he let it go public. Almost $164 million in cash was found at Cherkalin's house. Apparently, dozens of banks and businesses were paying the FSB for mob-like protection. The worst part, Smirnov himself took part in the negotiations with the banks. Without Smirnov's powerful influence, banks might have been reluctant to fork over hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees. General Smirnov was replaced by General Sergei Korolyov. It would be a mistake to think that this was somehow a cleansing of the FSB's top brass. Not really. Not much is known about General Korolyov, but what we know is enough. The name Korolyov appeared in some interesting phone transcripts. Gennady Petrov, a Kremlin-respected mob boss, either talked to him or mentioned his name. These transcripts were obtained as part of a Spanish investigation into organized crime and money laundering. Sergei Korolyov also had a very close relationship with another gang of killers. He even helped the gang's leader escape from Russia. Just let that sink in for a moment. Korolyov, Alpatov, and basically every FSB general are shining examples of one of Russia's main problems. Namely, that corruption and lawlessness is sewn into the very fabric of the FSB. No amount of hiring and firing will ever solve the problem. The FSB has far too much political power. It shouldn't really have any. The FSB controls scientific research, supervises education, interferes with social life, and regulates policy. Basically, it runs Russia's economy. Our country has come under the rule of people who are focused on security through absolute power. They won't let anything, including the law and the rights of ordinary people, get in their way. People who are entrusted with weapons and the right to use violence must be under the strict control of the law. Otherwise, we're living in a police state. In an interview, the secretary of the Russian Security Council said, "The West is taking steps to intensify informational pressure on Russia in order to erode Russian spiritual, moral, cultural, and historical values that form the foundations of statehood. Its aim is to reduce the sense of an all-Russian identity. People like him, and others in the security services, see threats even where there are none. If they are not controlled, the whole country will descend into a battle against an imaginary enemy, succumbing to the propaganda of a worldwide anti-Russian conspiracy." When your job is to look for threats everywhere, you start to see any change not as an opportunity for improvement, but as a threat to stability. That's why, in normal society, the State Security Service must deal exclusively with security, combating illegal actions and violence. The police should only be concerned with protecting the interests and rights of citizens, not enriching themselves. This is how a state works in the normal world. So far, unfortunately, we Russians don't live in one. Our team has prepared a large report on the activities of the FSB and the crimes and violations it has committed. It also includes recommendations from experts regarding possible FSB reforms. I really want to live in a world where this report would have absolutely no relevance, but the continuing anti-Russian sanctions tell a different story. Thank you for watching this video. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay tuned for new videos. Goodbye!